Hello everyone, today we are going to take a look at the thing that's right next to me, and I'm not talking about cameraman, but I'm talking about the heap of earth that's right next to me. It's called a tumulus. We are in Luxembourg in Altrier, and we are going to dig deep today to see what's inside and also to find out more about tumuli. My name is Thomas, this is Stones and Bones, and today we are going to see a lot of bones and probably not many stones, but if you're interested, please follow me. Okay, now, Marc, today we are going to talk about a tumulus, but this time we know that it's a real one. It's not just a heap of earth. We're going to talk about the tumulus in Altrier, also called the Schanz.
Yep. The tumulus was known, it was visible, and it is much bigger than one bill at the build, so it's twice as large. And in 1972, the museum undertook an excavation. I know this place since I have seen it when I was a child. And my grandfather, who used to be a teacher in Hemstal, called it the golden calf, the golden calf. That seems to be a sort of allusion to the Old Testament, and that's the name some local inhabitants gave to this place because they supposed that there must be treasures inside or something important. It was an important structure, but since there was some vandalism around, the museum decided to make an excavation, and they discovered a real burial chamber, not built in stone, but that was a wooden structure which left some marks in the earth. But the content was much more interesting. They could find some recipients, like in sort of stamnos and Etruscan sort of vase. They found a sword. They found a golden bracelet. They found part of a leather belt. They found some textiles and so on. So items which were associated with a dead person. I don't think that they found anything like cremation parts and bits and pieces, but anyhow, this was an important discovery, and it could show that in this area, this must have been a very, very important person who was buried there.
So we found stuff that belonged to a person, but we didn't find a person?
No.
Okay.
Well, that is quite common when you have got a certain kind of composition of sand, which can really dissolve everything, so you don't find much stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So, golden calf, so people thought it was pagan.
Yeah, in a way they had a sort of idea that must have had some sort of significance, but they didn't know exactly what it was. What is interesting as well is that since the 17th century, people knew that Schanz, the place, was an important place in Roman times. Alexander Wildheim, who was one of the first, I would say, archaeologist of Luxembourg or somebody, a historian, Jesuit, described it. So it was known as a place associated with antiquity, and maybe it was for that reason that people speculated since the 17th century or 18th century that there must have been something important. I think that tumulus has got a very great importance in the landscape because it really dominates a whole landscape underneath. I mean, that sort of valley underneath is so visible, and this is a prominent feature, yes.
Because nowadays you can drive past it and not see it because it's in the forest.
Yes, it's in the forest. Of course, vegetation changes the perception of space very much. So, but I believe that all these tumuli, all these mounds, had a sort of presence which could even have been enhanced by other things made of wood outside. So we don't know exactly how this appeared by the time these things were created. That is still a matter of speculation. Another thing is that archaeologists tend to go still nowadays for the contents of a tumulus. But I think it's as interesting to see the composition of the mound, where the earth comes from, where they excavated it, and even with pollen analysis, you can find out how the landscape looked like when these things were built. So it's still a large field of speculation and of investigation.
Okay, so do we know who built that tumulus?
No, not really. I mean, it has been dated to the pre-Roman period. called what they call Latine period. So it's a period when the Celts were around. And we know for sure that they had contacts with other populations, and that all these items which they put into the tomb could come from quite distant countries, like from Italy. So it must have been an important structure.
And so at that time, also, I think I don't think that people from Italy sent their dead to bury it in Luxembourg.
No, certainly not. No.
So the person that got buried in Altrier was from this region, so local, not Luxembourg, because Luxembourg didn't exist, but it was a very rich person that got stuff from all over Europe.
Well, I suppose it was aristocracy of its time.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes they give these people, when they discover some sort of people of that status, they say it's a high status tomb, or it's the tomb of a prince or a princess. Of course, this is the way one tries to translate it into modern terms, or something which is close to our own perception of important people. We would say it's a place of where Elon Musk has been buried or something. Yeah, I mean, it is probably that sort of association which people also made when they saw it in those times when they constructed, because they were like a warning. Stop! This is a place which is dominated by this family, by this clan, by this sort of. I think it's a statement, a very loud statement, a visible statement in the landscape.
Okay, so we don't know who was inside exactly. We don't know exactly when it got built, but probably by the Celts.
I suppose when you find a sword, it would be associated with man.
Probably,
so
yes.
Perhaps a woman with a sword, but I don't know. I think it's likely that it was a local sort of prince or local sort of chief who has been buried there.
Yeah. And what did people find in the surrounding areas? Is it like so many other tumuli that it was surrounded by more tumuli or barrows, or was it alone, or do we know?
As far as I know, but I don't know too much about these tumuli. But we now find that more and more tumuli can be discovered by that sort of method of LiDAR scan. So this sort of scan allows us to see through vegetation, see the grounds, and in some cases, we see that there is a real cluster of tumuli. In this case, I don't think there is a cluster of tumuli. But give you another example. In the area of Meisenburg, which is not far from Mersch, one of the people in charge at the Administration des Forêts discovered 2 or 3 tumuli, just de visu. So he could see it. But then when he went back and looked at the LiDAR scan, he could discover many more of these tumuli. I think there are some 30 or 40 tumuli in this forest. And they are barely visible, perhaps in wintertime, perhaps when the sun is low, but otherwise you wouldn't discover them properly. So there's so much more to be discovered in the forest, and I think that's so exciting in a way.
Okay, and now for our audience, should they happen to live in Luxembourg, why should I visit it? Can I see a lot of things? Is it interesting?
Well, yes, certainly it's interesting to people around and to get an idea of the place, to get an idea of the physical presence of it. Yeah. Because on a photograph, these tumuli are never very impressive. I mean, you make a photograph in a forest and you don't get the sort of scale. But as soon as you are close to it, you realize that those people who construct them, they had to carry so much earth to one single spot that must have taken weeks, months, if not years, to construct such a thing. So the collective effort which was needed to make it is something which would even impress us nowadays while visiting such a place. So I would recommend to have a look around. Mm-hmm. If there's a bit of mystery left, that is really what makes the interest of such a place, because there's so many questions which are unanswered and can only be, answered by proper investigation. Perhaps, yeah.
Okay. Marc, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll see you.
You're welcome.
So I guess you could say in Luxembourgish that we have circled the subject, or In English you would say we have covered it. But yeah, I'm quite certain that we have been tumultuous enough about tumulus today. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and share it. And well, my name is Thomas. This was Stones and Bones, and I'll see you next time.